Hello, everyone. This is Justin Smythe from nextbigtrade.com. This is the focus watch list for August 23rd, 2024. With semiconductors having had a big rally coming out of the August 5th panic lows, it's time to start looking at the short side of semiconductors again. The amount of profits in the sector is still huge after having two major rallies coming out of that October 2023 bottom, the April 2024 bottom, even back to May 2023. Semiconductors have just been leading the market for quite a long time now. However, there was a major panic starting in July. Big volume came into the inverse ETF SOXX, and the first big short side play on semiconductors took place. And then now we've had a huge bounce. But again, a lot of semiconductor stocks have now rolled over into stage 4. There's a couple leaders like Nvidia that have rallied back to resistance, but it's likely they're going to roll over again, especially if another correction starts in the stock market. And Nvidia does have earnings coming up, I think this coming Friday, which should be a big event for the stock market. But overall, I think there's good downside potential here for semiconductors, especially heading into another correction. And one thing to note, again, over the ultra short term though, you have to be careful with the short side because the market does appear to be still obviously working on the short term on the long side. So, be more deliberate with shorts, establishing positions, because they're, as long as things are working better on the long side, shorts are under pressure. And that could continue into the next week or two still. But I think, again, semiconductors look like they've made a major long-term top, and there's a trade here on the short side of semiconductors. We jump down to the daily chart. This should be the daily. I'm going to change this to the log scale to look at this better. The SOXX, interestingly, on Friday, even though the market was extremely strong, the volume was strong on the downside. However, price didn't get below that Thursday low yet, which there was a major reversal on Thursday, and then we're still above this gap from the July gap up as well. So I find that really interesting. If this area holds, you could probably buy SOXX against that area and look for it holding there. Otherwise, you have the July lows to trade against as well if there's more strength in this current rally. But notice how much volume is coming in here too. It looks like the market's trying to get positioned on the short side, at least for the recent move higher during that correction. But there's still huge buying interest in this. So there's obviously a lot of jockeying for position on the short side of semiconductors still. But again, you can set this trade up with a tight risk reward, and if it does continue to fall through, you just take a stop, get out. Otherwise, you get positioned here and look for another big move lower in semiconductors and a rally in SOSX. The other way to play this would be to short SOXL or short SMH. You can notice how SOXL has now rallied back to the 30-week moving average off of the panic lows. This area should start to act as resistance. You can see last week there was kind of an indecision candle and right at the 30-week moving average, so starting to act as support or as resistance. And we still have a lot of overhead resistance, obviously back from the previous rally, that if we're establishing a long-term top here, we might be unable to get above and then roll over into stage 4. SOXL on the daily. Notice how the volume on Friday here though was not that great, and then still within the selling candle on Thursday. So finding resistance right where we expected, right at these key moving averages. We'll see if this continues, and then lots of overhead resistance above this. SMH, again, indecision candle last week, underperforming the S&P 500. Strong week last week for the stock market. Semiconductors not acting right. Volume on the low side. Look at the going from massive outperformance to underperformance almost here. If this rolls over, that's be another bad sign for semiconductors. And look at the huge selling pressure, obviously, during the correction. Big money getting out of this big winning sector. Remember, big money takes a while to get out of something, and they have to make their moves much more deliberately. So they have to get out over time, and that's what creates these big rolling tops where the market starts to find resistance and then finally rolls over. On the daily, SMH could short this. You know, the 265 level is interesting because you've got a gap right there. Price really shouldn't get above there if things are bearish, and then we should find resistance and roll over. Look at volume here. Just that's lackluster volume on Friday, given the fact that the market was strong, still inside the candle from Thursday. And then finally, another sector to look at for a short would be solar. Solar tried to have a breakout back in May, failed, but has acted tremendously weak during this entire year, which has been strong. And then coming out of these major lows has really done hardly anything, especially the April low, couldn't follow through. And then recently acting very weak, no volume coming out of the panic low. Relative strength weakness here, no support underneath solar as well. So if this breaks lower, could see another stage 4 downtrend here. Logical place to look at a stop would be around the 46 level, because we'd be starting to break out above the 30 week, but a bearish market would find resistance there and roll over into stage 4. Again, look at the weak volume coming out of the panic lows, really no buying pressure here, and just a lot of relative strength weakness. So there's two sectors to play the downside in. Semiconductors are a sector where there's tons of profit still in, that if big money's getting out of, there's going to be a lot of pressure there. And then solar has just been a relative strength weak sector during this entire year. This sector could roll over again if the stock market rolls over into a correction, and there could be some big downside in solar during a weak market.